we have employed some people for several years now, and it seems like all at once, as our company is starting to grow, those employees and those managers are stepping forward and making the commitment to stay with us and asking for advancement and asking for promotion. And it's very flattering. And we know how fortunate we are to have people like that, and we want to keep all of them. And so two things are in my mind. Number one, wow, how do I do this? How do we make room for those people to fit? How important is it to keep them happy? Because clearly I don't want them to go somewhere else. But then there's sort of the other side of the coin, and I'm sure we've all noticed this, and it happens to Angie and I mostly in sales, where that person who really stands out and is really great at what they do, and you start to get accustomed to the way that they take care of you, and inevitably they go away into another department by result of a promotion. And so it becomes almost comedy where you're like, great, you're so good at this, I know you're going to get promoted, and then I'm going to end up with some lackey who fills your shoes, and so the job all of a sudden becomes, a bit of a torture for me to deal with the person in your position. So, that's a twofold question for me. How do I make those people happy? But then how do I make sure that as I'm promoting them, the person who fills their shoes, and I realize that's probably looking a little bit deeper into the problem than necessary, but I feel like that's really the issue. It's a couple sides to it. So I'm curious, because I know you've been through this, so I'm curious to what you had to say about it.
Well, there's a few things I was thinking about when you were saying this. One of them was that I think if you are going to, promote and build and grow employees, I mean, that's part of the game. So you do have to kind of grow them out of their roles. And it is hard. Once you have a go-to person, you tend to penalize them by keeping them in that role that made them the go-to person. And it's just, it's not going to really help with their advancement. Other times people think they want an advancement and what they want is like a couple bucks extra for a raise, or what they want is they want the opportunity to break out of something else they're doing. So it's always a great time to probe as well, because what you're going to want to say is, well, if you do take that role, I mean, for example, someone says, I want to go from being a server to a bartender because I think they get more tips. In your world. And that's always a conversation you hear. And you're like, yeah, except, and then you can give them all the other reasons why that doesn't work that way. And sometimes it's slow at the bar and you're not flipping tables as fast. Plus, your bar bill is never going to be the price of bar plus menu, etc. And so, I think that there's a lot of conversation that has to happen around that shift. And I think it's a good opportunity.
And then for some reason, you and I talk a lot about, especially as we were building kitchen table companies, we talked a lot about on-ramping. And for some reason, that came to my mind. There's this part of, great, someone steps forward and says, yeah, I want to take that responsibility. And so you shove them into it. And 3 weeks later, they're like, just as you're saying, this is not what I thought it was. And so there's got to be, this program of on-ramping people into new responsibilities, sort of letting them sort of dip their toes in the water. So
The Pulse Network. It's social TV.